Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Mei Lee Show. This is Mei, your intrepid host. How's everyone doing? Let's do a mental health check. Is everyone doing okay? Are you hanging in there? We're still obviously in the thick of COVID-19. A lot of us still under quarantine, under shelter in place, having to stay at home. A lot of cities and states have also imposed mandatory mask wearing when you're out in public. So that's elevated sort of the safety standards in a lot of different places. Even though I'm sure you guys know some states and areas are trying to lift a lot of these quarantining regulations and trying to get back to normal, which I just think it's a weird thing to say because we're not going to get back to normal. That's suggesting that we're going to go back to the way things were, which is so not the case. Realistically speaking, we know that things are going to be changed either for a long period of time or even forever. So the idea of getting back to normal is not, I don't think that's the right phrase to be using. It's going to be a new normal. And we're going to have to adjust to that, whatever that looks like. But yeah, hopefully you guys are all hanging in there. As I've been saying on the show, we all will have our good days and bad days. And, we all have to develop our own coping mechanisms. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to feel like crap and you're not going to want to do anything and you're not going to, be motivated. And I've had those days and I know I'm going to continue to have those days. And that's okay. We have to be a little bit more forgiving. I think this whole idea of trying to be productive and creative and doing this and that, with all this time we have on our hands and the pressure of being that way is, I don't think that's right because I think everyone's different. And this is not some sort of competition of who's going to come out of this better and more educated and more creative and more inventive. That's great if you come out of it that way and more power to you. But, those of you who don't want to and you just want to get through this, that's okay too. So I think the last time I may have talked about my Godzilla. And so I have officially made him, hang on, let me grab him. I've officially made him the show mascot. And if you guys missed the show where I talked about him, I got this guy when I was a CNN correspondent in Tokyo and I interviewed Toho Productions, which is the film company that made all of the Godzilla movies in Japan. And they sold these Godzillas there as merchandise. Here, he is so well made. You have to understand. It's so detailed. Look at this. His skin is all textured. And if I had batteries inside, which I really should show you at some point, he would move. His little feet walk and his arms, oh no, his arms don't move. Never mind. But his mouth opens and then he'll go, Rah! And then also his chest starts really glowing because, he's nuclear. So this is very sophisticated toy. But anyway, hi everyone. He's cute. I love him. So he's the mascot. Put him right back on that shelf. Okay. So today's show, I have a great guest for today's show. He is the co-founder of Boba Guys. That is the very successful boba tea drink outlet. They have 17 stores in San Francisco where they started in 2011, Los Angeles, and New York. They were doing phenomenally well, but of course, then COVID-19 hit. And just like so many other restaurants and F&B outlets, they took an enormous hit immediately. And so things have changed dramatically for them and the company. Their direction obviously is a little bit unknown, but I wanted to have Andrew Chau come on to talk about the experience, what they are going through, what they are planning on, and really how they're getting through what's happening. But also on a lighter note, he's going to give us a little treat in the second half of the show. I'm not going to give it away for now, but it's going to be fun. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned in. But Andrew is joining me now from San Francisco via Zoom.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's good to see you too.
And you're coming from your house in San Francisco, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know. That's where we all are at home, right? So Andrew, listen, I need to first ask you how things are going, because I have read about the drastic measures that you guys had to take, closing down your stores and having to lay off a lot of your employees. So can you describe what's been happening and how you're feeling?
Yeah. High level, it's been going pretty well in that we are trying to make a comeback. We did lay off 400 employees, but in the last months, we've been trying to reinvent our model.
Okay.
So it's been tough. I'm learning how to cook boba again. If you don't know, we are going to cook a bit of a segment later. So I'm making boba.
I know.
For all of you guys later.
I'm very excited about this demo that we're going to be doing with Andrew later. So just stay tuned for that, everyone, because he's going to make homemade boba for us. But God, Andrew, I know you're like trying to pivot, just like a lot of restaurateurs and people in F&B are. But again, you just said 400 employees that you had to lay off.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. Unbelievable is a good word, because 4 months ago, I think we were in the middle of opening stores, and to say within that span, we're in the middle of trying to like pull ourselves up out of the ashes like a phoenix. I think, I don't think anybody could imagine. I wouldn't have believed myself if I told that to my future self. Yeah. I think the hardest part obviously is emotional. I think any small business owner, we have stores in San Francisco, New York, and LA. Every small business owner will tell you, especially when you built it from scratch, like the way we did, they're like family. Yeah. So every layoff was like, we did them in groups and waves, but all my headquarters, I had about 20 people in my office. They're all, either furloughed or laid off, but some of them I knew I was not going to bring back for a while, like the marketing team. I mean, I knew I couldn't float marketing for like 3-4 months. Right. You're not going to hosting. There's no campaigns. There's no collaborations. There's no activation. So like that, I knew was, that example was probably the most I've cried in any of our, we did Google Hangouts to sadly, because we couldn't meet anybody in person. Yeah. So, I mean, that was probably the hardest one. I have to say that was like just an hour of just talking about, what's going to happen, and, and nobody had any answers at the time. I didn't even know.
I mean, we still don't, to a certain extent. We still don't know,
that's true.
The timing of all of this. And I know you decided, to close down temporarily, 17 of your shops. Is that right?
So what happened was, we closed down, I think on March 19th, closed down all 17, but across all 3. That was a coordination exercise in itself, which I didn't realize how hard it was. Really? I should have probably phased it, but then maybe I shouldn't have phased it, because it would have just prolonged the public health issue. But we did that. And then just literally this past week, we reopened one of them in our new model we call Boba Guys Express. But we still have 16 unopened. And who knows even then, like how we're going to reopen those, because we have to hire some of them back. We already tried to ask who wants to come back. And this is in no fault of their own. Not everybody wants to come back to work. Either unemployment benefits are really great, or, a lot of the ones are concerned because we have a lot of part-time workers, which are younger. So they live with their parents. They live with their grandparents, and they don't want to risk anything, which I totally understand, including my own sister. My own sister works for us, and she lives with my parents, and I didn't want to bring my sister back, really. Because I was like, what if something happens? And so we had to have a real conversation about it.
Wow. Yeah. And well, at least they're trying to be responsible, which is a good thing, actually.
Oh, they are. Yeah. I mean, our team is so amazing. I mean, I don't think it was because they didn't want to come back. It was more of like, for everybody, this is the first. How much risk does anybody want to take? And we're watching every day. We're watching the news, and you have whole states wanting to reopen. So, I mean.
Oh, I know. I mean, we could definitely go there, but I don't think we should, because it's going to make me too pissed off
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
because I
same,
think
same.
it's insane that people are considering
Yeah,
this and acting like, it's no big deal.
yeah.
But let's keep it to you. So you took a pivot, and now like you said, you're doing this Boba Express, which
Mhm.
is like a pop up, right?
Yeah,
In San
yeah.
Francisco. And when I read about that, I was like, oh my God, it's like as if they're going back to the beginning again,
That's
because
exactly
that's
what
how
it
you
feels like.
guys started.
It exactly feels like this kitchen that I'm in, which is weird because this is one of the first, I think the first like public thing that I've done that's using my home kitchen. But this was the exact kitchen that Ben, my co-founder, and I started making our boba recipe. So when you and I were talking before this, and I was like whipping out the boba to make sure that I don't burn the boba,
Yeah.
like I had not had to make a lot of boba for myself in years. So I'm usually around my team that can kind of help me. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to start this pot, or I'm making a boba front to, from beginning to end.
Right.
It's been a while, but it's kind of poetic, I think, because we did start out as a pop-up. And so this
Yeah.
is 2011 for those who don't know. So it's been 9 years since we started as a pop-up, and to go back in stores right after this interview, I'm going into our store. I got to put all the PPE on and everything. And because we treat our store as kind of like a bubble where you can't nobody can go inside the store. So we have this whole setup that we kind of have a new model. We hope Americans do it. If you're from Asia, or if you've been to Asia, I don't think our model is groundbreaking. But in America, nobody really does it because I think Americans think it's overboard. But if I had to be honest, I don't think it is, because even what we're doing, there's still risk,
Right.
you know?
Right. So you've
So
created like your store into like a real sanitized area, right? Where
yeah,
you guys can only go in there. You have your
yeah.
PPE.
Nobody has stepped foot in our store since we closed.
Right.
To this day, we barely even let our delivery guys come in properly.
Wow. Wow. So tell me how that's going, because you just started doing this not that
Yeah,
long ago, right? So tell me
yeah.
what the situation, are people ordering? Are people coming and getting their boba?
The good news is demand apparently is pent up.
Oh, okay. That's good.
We always thought, I mean, I'm pretty candid since I know you guys and I love you guys. I'll try to talk about it pretty candidly.
Yeah.
We didn't know if the demand was going to be there because in San Francisco, much like in LA, other boba shops are open.
Yeah.
And, we closed for public health. And I've been to those other boba shops, or I tried to. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people waiting in line. It's kind of crammed. And not in any way is bad. It's just, for us, we knew Boba Guys is a little more just really popular. We knew if we opened and we had the same setup, we would have really we would have caused massive congestion. It would have not have worked.
Okay.
And we saw a little bit of that near the end of right before our closures. Like 4 or 5 of our stores had long lines, and some people called us out on Twitter. And that was kind of, for me, the last straw.
Okay.
So that's why we closed so early, because I kind of could see it boiling up. And so the new model is really all about, we call it 7-step process, 7-step quarantine checklist.
Okay.
And it goes from everything from PPE to cleaning to contact lists. Everything we've done is doing mobile right now. And then I don't have a card here because they're all printed for our stores, but we have these cards like they have in Asia that really say who handled it. And it's really for contact tracing. Like if somebody has it, I guess you could still get infected. The card itself doesn't prevent anything, but it gets our team to consciously think about their temperature every day, which we have thermometers inside our store.
Okay.
And then we essentially just have like a step process before we even open, which, if I had to be really frank, that's the most conscientious we've ever really been. I mean, nobody thinks about even a 7-step process.
Right.
So I hope it instills more discipline, if anything.
Well, I mean,
So
that
could
be
CEO,
that could be a silver lining in all of this, in terms of the F&B and just overall hygiene that maybe none of us ever actually really thought about as much, right?
I agree. I'm a germaphobe myself, and I don't even think I was as vigilant about this stuff.
Right.
And so I do think this is probably going to be the new normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
The good news is our team is we're known for like being a premium boba, like artisanal, like we're more like blue bottle for boba, most people say.
Exactly.
And so our staff is a little more like on the higher trained skill level. So our staff naturally gets it, because I've been talking to other people who have cafes where they had a harder time training people on new processes. Whereas I tell you, we are just onboarding another 5 today. I mean, we're just under 20 now, 20 out of the 400. But even then, they turn on like it was so easy. So I think we've been very grateful for that.
Right, right. I think it's becoming a part of the daily psyche of everyone now. This notion of hygiene and better hygiene. So I bet people are adjusting to that a lot better. So because of all these steps you're taking, and the card, everything from being so meticulous, are you noticing that customers are coming and appreciating that? I mean, is this giving you hope that your business, you can pivot this way and you can somehow grow it into something a little bit different, at least for the time being?
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, most people know my public persona. I'm considered like a hopeful guy, an optimist. And I think it does. Again, we didn't know if the demand was going to be there. So we don't know that until we actually open.
Yeah.
But, a lot of what we do is about culture. Our whole mission is to bridge culture. So everything we do, we're really obsessed with cultural norms, societal norms, culture, differences between countries and stuff. So that's kind of what we do. And so for me, I think internally, that's kind of our world. We can kind of contain that because, I mean, if you're working for Boba Guys, you're kind of working with our own value system. But what's interesting is, I'll give you a good example. In the beginning, when we started, San Francisco didn't make everybody wear masks, but now, as of yesterday, you have to wear a mask in public.
Right.
And, but we have messengers and couriers. They wouldn't come with masks. And we have this thing where you have to stay 6 feet apart, where we drop it and then you have to come and grab it.
Okay. Yep.
And so there's complete contact. But, in the beginning, we were still a little worried because some of the DoorDash or the couriers we had just didn't have masks on.
Right.
And we would say, you need a mask. And so in literally a matter of 2 days, this is before the ban happened or the mask requirement in San Francisco happened, everybody now started wearing masks. One of the DoorDash, our couriers, who we now see because he comes and do like 4 or 5 pickup and runs deliveries every day. He goes, "Oh, I got masks because I've been here all the time because I'm seeing you guys wear masks." There's just like certain norms that we're seeing,
right? Because
so much of this is the lack of norms, where we think Asians wearing masks is a stigma,
right?
Or people not wearing masks is being not careful and having bad hygiene. So if you normalize it, I think culture just moves faster.
Listen,
more fluid.
Andrew, I have fashion designer friends who are saying this is going to be the norm for a while. And so they're starting to make these masks that are like stylish and fashionable because they know that people are going to have to keep wearing these things. And, they want to have some fun or whatever. But I think that's definitely a change from the West with the Western culture, because they, the West was never used to this idea of wearing masks when you were sick, Yeah.
And I hope we at least don't antagonize them and say, "Oh, Americans, you are so ignorant. You don't understand."
No.
I do think we get to say, as even like this podcast, if you're non-Asian or you're not familiar with Asian culture and you're watching this podcast, which we will share, so I'm sure there's going to be non-Asians watching this, is that, in Asia, what we're talking about is completely normal.
Yep.
But in America, or just like boba, or just like sushi, which wasn't normal, it will become normal.
Yes.
And we'll remember the generation in which we started understanding that, the stigma starts breaking. And I think that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this crisis, hopefully it will, it's a teachable moment in many ways.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, as you and I know, it has also been a very horrific time for the Asian community. And, Andrew, you've listened to the show. I talk about this a lot, about the xenophobia and the racist, incidents that are happening worldwide, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious because you guys are Boba Guys. I mean, boba is an Asian drink. I'm wondering if you have felt any of this, or you have been victimized in any way, for what you represent during this crisis. Anything that you can share, or maybe even your own fears?
I would say, thankfully, because maybe of where we put our stores in the cities that we're in, we haven't seen too much like explicit xenophobia.
Okay, good.
We didn't get any like bad jokes on the internet yet, or any really bad comments.
Good.
So thankfully we've been protected. And I mean, some people know, if you kind of know, we have a very strong following. So I'm if you want to pick a fight, you don't want to pick a fight with us in our community. That's
Yeah.
probably what I've noticed. But I did see, because I know a lot of other boba shop owners, like
Yeah.
I did see a lot of other boba shop owners get, the standard jokes of like, well, what's in that? Or like, that looks like that droppings, things like that. I think it's just very disappointing.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's in my head. And I don't know if I heard some of your other podcasts and interviews, like it has affected us, viscerally, because I never really had to think about possibly getting spit on,
right,
or getting a dirty look. I never questioned looks. In the past, if I saw somebody give me a funny look, it would be like, do I have something in my teeth?
Right.
Something like that.
Right. But you never equated it to your race or your ethnicity. Yeah.
And now there has been, and I don't think I've ever really shared this. I was speaking at Congress. This is on March 10th. I went to testify in Congress, and
I remember that.
And I was getting ready. This is March 10th. Getting ready to talk about both small businesses need help, which was really early to say that back then. People were like, "What do you mean we need help?" And I'm like, "Trust me, we're going to need a bailout." Which look is what we were right.
Yeah.
But number two is racism, and even I don't want to say the people in Congress, but some people in Congress didn't understand racism was about to come, and I was probably one of the main first people really saying it to mainstream, and that's why I went there, because originally I didn't want to go down to DC, but I never told people. But on my way down to DC, I had already had my my testimony written.
Okay.
Because they want to know what you're about to say in Congress, because it's recorded and it's on public record forever.
Yep.
And I'm like, I have one chance. Well, on the way, I have stores in New York. So I was already in my New York stores, which is why the timing worked. And then I trained down to DC, and I could be making this up, but the reasons why, but nobody wanted to sit next to me. I had a mask on and I was in a suit. So I was in a business suit. I had my mask on because I'm training down from Penn Station to Union Station in
DC.
DC. And like, there's nobody sat next to me. And it wasn't like empty. This was March 10th. And I'm like, all right, like, what's going on here? And, I don't think it was explicitly racism. I don't think it was anything like that. But I'm sure I was one of the only people wearing masks that somebody was thinking, oh, well, I don't know why he's wearing a mask, but I prefer to avoid that.
Yes.
So I think that's how, I don't know what the real answer is. And that's why I haven't really said anything this entire time. But that never occurred to me until that. And that's actually on my way down there when I edited part of my testimony and I injected a whole paragraph about racism. Because before that, I hadn't really wanted to talk too much about it, because I didn't want to go to Congress.
So that particular moment had an impact on you and what you were going to say then, because you felt something that you weren't sure about. But I mean, look, I'm going to take an educated guess here, Andrew. I think it was probably the combination of you being Asian and wearing a mask. Let's be honest, I think it was some version of it. Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of small business, I mean, you called that out early when people didn't even know what kind of impact this was all going to have on small business. Yeah. Now, since then, we've had one stimulus package, and then just the other day, Congress approved another. Yep. Wondering if you guys have received the PPP at all at this point.
We have not received it yet, but we think we're about to get processed.
Okay.
Because you need the loan doc number to kind of figure that out. Right. So we were part of the, I won't say one of the big three major banks. We were left because that bank had a asset cap, and we do all our business with them. And so both the two banks that we mainly bank with are two of the big three.
Okay.
And both we could not get in.
Oh man.
And we signed up right away.
Wow.
There's just too many people. So we ended up going to a community bank, which
that's what a lot of small businesses ended up doing, because they couldn't get into the large bank system. Which we all know now. Listen, I'm not saying all the banks did this, but we all know that some of these big companies that shouldn't have gotten the loans, they jumped the queue. They were able to jump the queue. And so they were able to then get their loans, which were not supposed to go there to them. I mean, we all know the story of Shake Shack returning the $10 million, but yeah. So you went to the community bank. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, our loan, to give you an idea, was roughly about $1 million. So it is on the larger sides. The average loan size is 300,000.
Okay.
Or 200, 300,000. and about 90, I think the statistic was 90+% of the loans did go to loan sizes 350,000 or smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is I do think statistically, the loans got roughly to the smaller guys.
Okay.
Work, I would say small, medium.
Yeah.
But even then, like, the whole purpose of that paycheck program is to pass it through to your team. So for me, I think I was saying earlier, we're trying to rehire everyone, which is a whole separate thing, because now if we are about to get it in the next 2 weeks, especially more and more people are going to get it because of the second stimulus package for PPP is coming. I think more and more people will get it. And at that point, we're going to run into a different issue, which is the balance of unemployment benefits and rehiring, and then the risk of rehiring. So I think we're definitely not out of the woods, but the PPP process, I was on a call right before this because I'm on a task force related to small business. And we're talking about how people with language barriers, people who are lower income, and they have a hard time filling out the forms, getting the paperwork ready, or even knowing who to go to in a bank because they probably don't have the existing or strong banking relationship, which luckily for me, I went to a brand new bank, which I had no relationship with, but I got in so early. And then I kind of used like a contact to say, hey, and I was really pestering the bank a lot. And I finally, they're like, okay, fine. Well, when we're taking new applications, we got through. And that's
Wow.
That's what a lot of businesses, you just got to hustle. I applied 11 times. I don't think
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was desperate. Yeah.
Well, no, of course you're desperate. Everyone's desperate. So that's what it takes to get it. Wow. That was
number 11.
But Andrew, you brought up a really important point, which is that especially within the Asian community, there's a lot of language barrier. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of pride in terms of not wanting to take a loan, thinking that, no, I can't do that. And I think that's a very traditional kind of stance that a lot of Asians often take. And these are little mom and pop shops, right? So, what would be your message? And I mean, I'm so glad to hear you're on a task force. I mean, what do you think needs to be done to help that community of Asian business owners who may not even know what to do?
Yeah. Well, the first is there's a website that we made in, I think, 6 or 7 Asian languages called acesmallbusiness.org. So ACE smallbusiness.org, which I'm on the board of ACE. So it's basically the Asian Chamber of Commerce's across America.
Oh, wow.
So it's generally how I amplify. So I kind of know what's going on in all the Asian Chamber of Commerce's across the United States. And then they amplify to us.
Okay.
Or they give the information to us and I go and speak on their behalf.
Okay.
Or other of our members do. And so I think we made a website for them because that was one of the things we talked about just on this call, where we need to continue to, now we have a website, but now we need to help them apply.
Yeah.
And I think you're saying is it's so right. I mean, most people don't even see that. And that's very astute that, behind the scenes, we're like, how come they aren't applying? How come they don't want the money? Or do they know how? Or in many cases, are their books clean that they can actually do the payroll, health, the kind of the way that you have to fill out the form in. And all of the above are just barriers.
Yeah.
And we need to kind of remove each one of those barriers, the language barrier, the paperwork barrier. And, we're trying to figure out, can we scale a way in which we set up people that are more financial and business savvy, like myself, which I actually helped a lot of other people apply.
You did. Okay.
And,
great.
Because I do have Asian language skills. So then I at least roughly know what we're trying to get and have them fill out.
Yeah.
Or even grants, right? Forget the PPP loan. Sometimes a grant is like, tell us your story.
Yep.
And that's just all translation from maybe a Cantonese storytelling. And then you translate it into English, which is what a lot of these grant programs require.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think anything related to that, and if our community can really say, hey, to a nonprofit, I heard you guys are helping assistance with loan applications, with leases, with grant applications. Can I help translate? Can I help do that? I think so much of the younger generation, or just any generation that is now have a free time, like
I think that's a great, I think that's a great idea of younger people because we all have time on our hands. We really should step up and try to help, because it could be something as simple as just going through a website and just being able to help. Okay, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's turn back to you guys though. Because, again, you're going back to the basics of this pop-up and you're hoping to start rehiring again. So what does that look like to you? What do you think look, I mean, I hate to even ask you, what do you think's going to happen? Because none of us know what the hell is going to happen and how long, but you must have some sort of scope in terms of how you want to proceed at this point, and what do you want it to look like? I mean, do you think you're going to be able to reopen 17 shops again, or like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that we are trying. You know, you can ask the landlords that I've been talking to. I'm intending to open every single one. You know, the one casualty is we make our own boba in the United States. Like,
look at that.
Made in Hayward, California.
Wow.
The tapioca balls, that factory is kind of in jeopardy. I've been pretty open about that because our supply chain's broken. Because, you know, like, what boba shop's not all boba shops are open, and the volume is definitely down. So if the market size shrink, who's going to buy more boba from our US made manufacturer?
Right.
So we definitely are in trouble a little bit there, and I'm pretty open about it, and we have to entertain all options. And I think overall though, our stores, I was saying this to somebody else, like, I don't know about you, but I'm watching a lot of like Gavin Newsom and Mayor and Governor Cuomo videos.
Oh, totally. Cause they're awesome.
Yeah. The way they kind of think and articulate, for me, I'm an aspiring leader. I think people know me for leadership, but I'm still young, and I'm trying to be better. And I look up to different people, and I'm trying to take the best of what they do. And they do two things really well. And I think the Asian American community, I wish, one thing I do say is I think we need more leaders. I think we're seeing more come, but I think we need more faster.
Oh, Andrew, without a doubt. I mean, I say that all the time as well, is that, we need more representation. We hear that all the time. We need more representation in all industries. But when it comes to influence and change, we certainly are way underrepresented when it comes to politics.
I completely agree.
It's a dirty business to get into. I mean, people have even said you should get into politics. I'm like, yeah, but it's a dirty business, and you got to be willing to fight the fight. And Asians traditionally, as we know, have never been wanting to get down and dirty because they want to kind of keep their head down. But I love hearing from younger people like you, Andrew, who say, we should. We do. We need to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of being reactive and wonder why we don't have a voice.
Correct.
I mean, I would say we should create that. And I think that's, the reason why one of the many reasons why I love, whether it's Next Shark or coming on this podcast, is that both, talking to you and Benny and anybody else involved in these larger movements, Benny's just as outspoken. Benny and I text all the time.
Yeah.
And I think we need more. We just need more. And our mission is to hopefully groom a bigger pipeline.
Yep.
Of that. And so,
that's why I was saying to you before we started, what's happening now to the Asian community, it's a horrible thing, but I hope that we take this situation and it galvanizes our movement and it makes us stronger. It makes us more empowered to realize that, okay, we cannot stay silent. We can't just sit back and think that somebody else is going to take care of it. Nobody else is going to take care of it. Why would they? Right? We have to take care of it.
I completely agree. And this goes for any marginalized community, right?
Yes, sure.
Like women from gender, LGBT, sexual preference, ethnic minorities, religion. Right. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a punching up.
Yep.
When you have a majority and you got to punch up, it's punching up. You don't like knock on the ceiling in the ivory tower and be like, hey, please let me in.
Exactly.
You essentially have to change the power dynamics, which is a whole separate podcast. But it's
it is. But it's
power politics.
It's a theme that I constantly bring up because it's a lack of leadership and a lack of a stronger voice. And it's just like the census, and I'm going to make one comment about the census because I think this is truly important. The Asian community is the lowest when it comes to filling out the census, and people and voting. People have to realize if you don't fill out the census, then your voice isn't being heard and you're not going to count. So that's where the money goes to. That's where, political power goes to. If you don't fill out that census, then you're invisible. You don't exist. Okay. So guess what, guys? You still have time to go and fill out that census. Please, I'm begging you, please do. And then of course we have to vote in November. Yes. Is your Boba okay behind you?
Yeah, that's what I had to go do. I apologize if I turn around for a quick second.
No.
I didn't want to.
I don't want you to burn your Boba.
Now it's just simmering. When we go through kind of the demo, you have to have the balls perfectly QQ. So I have like a timer.
Oh.
And so this is real time, real life action,
Amazing.
like live action.
This is
cooking show here.
exclusive, folks. Okay, so this is a podcast and a video, show. So people who don't really, this is an exclusive deal you're getting here with this demo by Andrew, right? You don't do this.
I've never done it.
Yeah, exactly. You've never done it. I love it. I love it.
You know, we were supposed to do this. We were supposed to do cooking shows on our book tour, but obviously our book tour got canceled.
Right.
And so, and I haven't, to be honest, nobody really asked me to cook for them. They've been asking me about small business. They've been asking me about racism. And so when you asked, do you guys also want to do a demo? I was like, sure. Like I'll figure out. I haven't even practiced. So later on, when we get through it, I haven't done it.
We're totally going to make this organic. So let's just see what happens. Yeah. And this was Benny's idea for you to do the demo. When he said that, I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Let's have him do that. Yeah. So credit Benny for that one. Speaking of the book, let's talk about the book for a second. Because your book tour was canceled, but that doesn't mean the book is not available. Can you hold it up for us? You have it somewhere, right? It's called the Boba Book.
Yeah, it's officially apparently a bestseller.
It is?
Not New York Times yet, because the local bookstores are heavily weighted in New York Times. But whether Amazon and Barnes, we're their top. Definitely opening week, we were their top beverage for sure.
Oh my gosh!
And then we've been consistently one of their top. I'm going to say this: we monopolized the boba market because this is the only boba book. That's sadly why the name. We were trying to figure out. We wanted to call it like something really grand, but my editor was like, you have to just call it something like
the
Boba or Book of Boba, because the goal was to kind of make boba accessible to everyday Americans.
So Andrew, I mean, what I find I have to say is, I'm going to sound like an old lady, right? What I find so delightful about you is that you seem so optimistic. I mean, there's a really good energy coming from you. And I have to admit, I'm a little surprised by it. Now, we've never met before today.
Yeah, no.
So I didn't really know what you were like, but I guess I was expecting somebody who was a little bit more somber because of everything that you're going through. So it's really nice to see that you're trying to keep, your spirits up. How are you doing that? And, I ask because I'm really afraid for people's mental health.
Yes.
Because of this, right? I mean, I think nobody would disagree with that right now. Each one of us we're going through, our own crisis, whether it be minor or major. But I think the underlying theme is, the mental well-being, like how are people coping and are they coping? Yeah. Do you have ways in which you're coping on a daily basis?
Yeah, eating a lot better. I think I did gain some weight.
Okay. You and a lot of other people.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but stressed spelled backwards is desserts. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Profound.
Okay. That's hilarious.
So we baked a lot of cookies.
Oh, okay. Nice. Hey, I made lemon bars from scratch the other day and I don't bake. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. Well, same me. Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone's turning into like bakers and TikTok artists and making banana bread. Yeah. I mean, all the memes are going that way.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I mean, first of all, it's a compliment. I would say that's really a compliment maybe to my parents. Cause I think, if I had to be really honest, and my wife, like, I think, I'm surrounded by very, like my dad had a really hard life. He was a freedom swimmer. And so he escaped communist China. He was one of those people who swam from Canton, Guangzhou, China area to Hong Kong, 10 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
He was one. There's 60,000 of them. A lot of them are San Francisco. My dad was one of them. And then my mom, she's just very happy-go-lucky. And then, my mom, it's pretty open because I tend to have to be in public a lot. So my mom does have like Parkinson's, but out of all the people who can go through Parkinson's, my mom, I think is taking it the best.
Oh, wow.
And, it's obviously affecting her, but I think because of that, and my wife is very similar, like, people who kind of have, I think all of it is about perspective. I do think it's a lot about like a lot of mental health, a lot of just, life is you can't control what happens to you. Nobody can, and so I'm kind of known to be pretty tough love. Like I don't believe in victim mentality. And, I grew up poor. I grew up lower middle income. My dad was a bus driver. He grew up as an immigrant, didn't speak English, never finished high school. He got taken away from his parents when he was 14. So like, like my dad did that. And then me, like I'm the eldest grandchild on both sides, eldest son on 19 cousins, right? Like, so for me, like I had nobody who taught me how to apply to college and all that. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you still had X or whatever, but when you get into that game, it's a very bad mindset. So the real question is how do you change your mindset? Number one, I think having great people and great inspiration around you is number one. I think hearing maybe you and I talk, this energy hopefully will carry to somebody who's watching at home right now and saying like, this is, like it's crappy. I don't know if people know, I've been on furlough this entire month. So everybody thinks I have a lot of money, but I don't. It's all in a company, which is worth who knows what now.
Right.
And then on top of that, like my cash, I'm really cash poor. So this is a real fact. My wife and I have eaten out once in the last 38 days.
Okay.
I did the math. And the only time I got that eaten out once was because my friend Hanson, my big brother, my mentor, he dropped off food for me because he heard that. He heard I hadn't had, he dropped it off last week. He said, I heard you hadn't had taken takeout in a month. So he drops off some stuff for us. Anyways, but that mindset isn't like, it's not a flex or anything. It's that I know what it's like to have nothing, and this is not even close.
Yeah.
So we still have generally, our health, generally loved ones, and so much of us are going through it together.
Right.
So I do think, practical things are, I do breathing exercises. So I am on the type A side. So I can get high strung and have anxiety, which I've suffered from.
Yeah.
So in order to believe it or not, anxiety didn't really kick in this entire time. I don't know why.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I had a panic attack, anxiety attack 3 years ago that I went public with. And that was really scary because I felt like I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah,
I couldn't feel what my left arm.
That's what it feels like.
And I was like, I don't know what happened. So I remember shutting off social media and all that kind of stuff back then. Well, this time I thought maybe I was going to get an anxiety attack. So my wife was worried, and I didn't. It was very sad, and there was a lot of like mourning. But I think mourning is okay. Mourning is healthy. I think when we try to avoid it and put Band-Aids on.
No, you can't glaze over it. Nope. You have to process it. You have to go through it. As my pastor once said in a sermon, grief and mourning, you can't go around it. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it.
Yeah.
Right? You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't know that you had a faith background. So that's I didn't want to talk. I actually, I was talking about it at my church. I go to a church called Reality.
Okay.
And the internet may or may not know that I'm pretty vocal about it too. But I don't try not to Bible thump it, be holier than thou. But
me neither. But yeah, I definitely have faith. Yeah.
Faith basically is the last one where, like, at the end of the day, we have one life on earth. We know that this is all temporary. None of the material things that I've lost, if Boba Guys was worth X and now my value is cut to, I don't even know how much now, it's like worth nothing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then even if I can't take anything with me, I can't even take my wife, my best relationship in my life. I can't even take her to the grave.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, that'd be really sad. Right. So I think, when you think of it that perspective, like nothing fundamentally, affects you in the way. Yeah.
Right. And guess what we have then?
Breaks you down.
Guess if you strip all of that away, guess what we have? We have this moment. We have this moment. Exactly. And what are you going to do with this moment? Right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be bitter and angry and like frustrated? Yeah, you're allowed to on occasion. It's okay, but you don't want to stay there. Yeah, you don't want to stay there. So no, that's awesome.
You know what my favorite analogy is, and I think you were talking about this with somebody else, but the analogy related to that is like, you don't want to be the thermometer. The thermometer like reads the temperature in a room, and then it goes up and down based on whatever the room feels. If it's hot, then the thermometer is going to go higher or lower. But you want to be a thermostat. You want to be able to like set the temperature. But a thermostat needs to know what the temperature is and then say, no, I'm going to turn it cold.
Right.
I'm going to do it to change the culture. And I think that's what we need more in society, because if everybody maybe dials it down and settles down or thinks more level-headed or is more empathetic and kind to one another,
yes,
I honestly think we just changed the whole climate, and that climate will then make people feel less comfortable or more comfortable. Like
Right.
that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I think this crisis, what else could have stopped the entire world at the same time, except a crisis
That's
like
true.
this, and have all of us sit here and think long and hard about things that maybe we never had time for. So if that is, again, the giant silver lining, that's what I'm hoping, is that the outcome
Yeah.
will be, people will be, like you're saying, more empathetic, more compassionate, more thoughtful,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
civilized, so
Yeah.
let's hope. Okay, now we're going to get to the part of the episode that I am really looking forward to. This is when you're going to actually make us a boba tea right in front of us. So tell me what you're going to make.
Great. I'm going to make our, well, we recently had a book. I'm not plugging the book, but we don't have a book tour. So this is going to be my fake book tour.
Yeah.
I haven't done a demo, as I was saying earlier. So this is my first demo.
I know. And I feel so
this
special that you've never done this before for anybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're supposed to do a lot of it. And then obviously there's no tour. So it's the opposite of that. Nobody really wants to see anything. But you get to see us make a strawberry matcha latte, our signature drink.
That's your signature. Okay. So, and it's beautiful. For people who are not watching, they're listening to the podcast. This is the cover of their book. And it looks like this beautiful layered drink of red, white, and green. It's gorgeous. Yeah. It looks like artwork. Okay. So you're going to make that for us. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I should shout out to my photographer, Christopher Testani. We should say that we are trying to win the James Beard. Our entire team, outside of us, everybody's been nominated or won. So my co-writer, Richard Parks, Christopher Testani, my editor, Francis. So we put together an A-team, because the whole thing about the book is, honestly, it's all about changing the way people think about what boba means.
Yeah.
And there's very little about Boba Guys in here. It's called the Boba Book, not the Boba Guys book. So we really want to make sure that the culture gets its due. And, a lot of times we were talking about oat milk, one time, and like even oat milk, people don't realize that oat milk was something that Boba Guys, not single-handedly, but Boba Guys really made popular. It was a boba company that made oat milk popular, not a hipster coffee company.
Right.
So that's a story for another day. So let's make the strawberry matcha latte. I have most of it prepped. I was doing some of it while we were doing the earlier part of the podcast. So I had the boba cooking, as you saw. And so it's pretty easy. So boba is pretty straightforward. Boba, think of it as like, have you had boba? Like, this is what
I
boba
have
looks like.
had
It's raw.
boba. And so Andrew's just showing us the bag of raw, uncooked tapioca balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of looks like dog food.
It does.
Like little pellets. They look like little round pellets.
Yeah.
Are they hard when they're not cooked?
They're basically like starch. They crumble in your hand. I could take one out after I scoop some of the boba.
Okay.
So here's some boba.
Okay. Yep.
And so I'm personally not going to have too much boba today, because as you can tell, I've been drinking too much boba, my own boba lately. The boba itself it's just a starch. So I don't think anybody really does it. So I want to maybe have people see it. I'm going to crush it like here. I'm going to crush it over my sink, but just powder.
So it really is easily crushable like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said before that this is made locally, right? The tapioca.
Oh yeah. This is made in Hayward, California, the great city of Hayward.
Okay.
We wanted to, Boba Guys is known for vertically integrating. So whether it's the boba or the tea, like the matcha I'm going to use, we sell at teapeople.com.
Okay.
So we were talking about small business earlier. One of the ways we did stay afloat roughly was we do quite a bit of e-commerce orders. So we sell our tea at teapeople.com. And so we try to make everything we give you in a drink, we want to say we either source it or brought it in-house, which no boba shops, if any coffee shops do that.
Right.
So, but everyone says sometimes we're a little like slightly on the, preachy woke side, and we're a little more like sustainability and metal straws. And, I think everybody has to realize everybody's trying to do their own thing. And most of the times companies are based on its founders. So like, my co-founder and I, we're just very, we are into sustainability. Metal straws was because I was tired of throwing away plastic straws. And then San Francisco was the leader in it. So that's why, if you guys don't know, we helped co-author the bill for the straw ban. So, or oat milk. Oat milk was because, as you were saying, almond milk is not really great because you use a lot of water on top of the bee issue. So
no.
We were looking for.
I switched to oat milk not too long ago because I read a lot of research saying that the bee population was being decimated because of the almond groves, and they need to pollinate all the almond trees, and so these bees would go in, they would be delivered to the orchards, and then they would all die after that. And so we all know that research shows that if bees are gone from the planet, humans have 50 years left because nothing will be pollinated. So I then switched to oat milk, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. That's why, oat milk's a thing. There's a whole story about it. You can read online about how boba shops brought that in, or Boba Guys really brought it in.
Well, I do want to hear that story, but okay, but I want to get to this because you're pouring in the pureed strawberry, which is a mixture of what?
Sugar. Usually we do everything by ratio. So 3 parts water, 3 parts sugar, which is essentially 100% simple syrup with 5 parts strawberries.
Okay.
So we have some strawberries right here, just as a sample.
Right.
So then I use 100 milliliters to create the bottom layer.
So you poured that into, again, for the people who are not watching the video, you poured that into the boba with the boba. And now you're putting ice in.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I'm going to use oat milk today.
And again, you can use oat milk or dairy, almond milk or, okay. So you're pouring that over the ice.
So it's creating the layers. If you notice, that's how we get the first set of layers.
Because the ice sort of breaks up sort of like the funneling action, I guess, right?
Thing called hit the ice, where if you hit the ice, it'll diffuse the layer across this way. But if you don't hit any ice, the liquid that you're pouring over the top will go right through because of the gravity. And then density plays in. In this case, the puree is more dense than the milk. So that's why the puree always stays at the bottom. It's kind of the secret.
Oh, right. See, that I would never think of that actually, because I can't do chemistry or any kind of science. Okay, so now you have the milk layer, and now you're going to do the matcha layer.
Matcha.
Okay.
So I'm doing a heaping teaspoon of matcha.
And this is this is the real deal matcha. This is not some fake green powder stuff that.
Yeah, we use or this one's an Uji matcha. We source organic matcha, premium organic matcha directly from Japan.
Okay.
And so it's our number one drink. So matcha is something we definitely source. I make a paste.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a gravy, it looks like. I do it as a paste first. I use 50 milliliters of water, but you can see I didn't use all of my water yet because I'm making a paste first.
Okay. And so you're using the traditional Japanese whisk.
Yep.
In the bowl. Okay. So it's,
and you want to make sure it foams. Yeah, it's basically thick. And then it helps get rid of the clumps.
Okay.
Because matcha in water tends to clump. Yeah. So when you make a paste, it'll kind of get all of the particulates will start getting caught in kind of the round bottom. Whereas if it were all water, it will fly right through the whisk. So you won't be able to break it down.
So Andrew, in the shops, when your employees would be making this drink, do they do this process exactly how you're doing it? Like they would mix the paste and they would do, wow. So
we do this in all our shops.
So every drink is kind of handcrafted like that. That's cool.
Yeah. For better or worse, that was our old model.
Right.
Let's see if we can handcraft everything.
So now you're going to
here we go.
So you poured the rest of the little bit of water into the matcha to liquefy it a little bit more.
Now it's very watery. Yeah. Now it's going to spill.
But it's still super strong, man. That's strong green tea. Okay. And
then you're going to pour it on the ice like so.
Okay. And he's pouring it on top of now the milk layer. Oh, wow. And look at that. And it creates the green layer. Oh my gosh.
And if you really want it to layer correctly, there's like a DJ method I do. It's like
you're spinning.
You scratch. You spin.
Wow.
And because of the density.
Wow. Oh, so it kind of settles everything.
Yeah. It kind of creates the because if the math is right, it's all by density and concentration.
Oh, you didn't say there was any math involved here. No.
I know. I just turned everyone off. I said no.
Okay, so now you take your metal straw and you're going to stir everything together. Look at that. So all the layers disappear, and now it turns into this really pretty, like very light green drink.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taking a sip.
Yeah.
And it's delicious.
I'm so sorry. You cannot,
I know, you suck for doing that in front of me. Yeah, cheers. No, that looks beautiful. Wow. Thank you for doing that demo.
Yeah, super easy. I mean, the recipe's in the book, but I mean, what we're trying to do is just have people understand that boba, it's complicated. It's not complicated, but it is just like coffee. It could be a ritual. And the reason why we break down recipes is, I mean, obviously, if more people drink boba, the better off we are anyway.
Yeah,
so,
of course. Well, tell me tell me a little bit about the history of boba, because I know that I've read an excerpt from your book that talks about, sort of these two different tea houses that claim that they're the originators of boba. So I know you guys actually went to Taiwan to try to figure this out, right?
Yeah. I mean, we go to Taiwan like all the time for sourcing, but one trip we brought our redder with us because we wanted to really get to the bottom of whether or not it's one place called Chun Tang, CST, they're from Taichung.
Okay.
And the other one is called a Hanlin Tea Room. I think they're from Tainan. So basically different parts of Taiwan. We know boba came from Taiwan in the 80s. We just don't know who.
Okay.
So there's an argument on like who started it. But really what we found out, just like music, just like remixing, people say we invented strawberry matcha latte. I don't know. I'm sure somebody put strawberry and matcha together, but nobody really made it popular until us. That we probably know because we Googled this. In the same way with boba, I'm sure somebody put a cassava root tapioca starch, which was a dessert in Southeast Asia, and they combined it with milk tea, which probably came from either Malaysia or Hong Kong, or because it's a colonized kind of drink. So a colonizer from Europe came over, dropped it in, and made milk tea a thing. And then you combine the milk tea with the dessert in Taiwan.
Right.
And I think, most people in Taiwan will probably say it's one of the two. And so at that point, it's all about attribution. And the fact that we're saying both names is really what it's all about. Right. Even Boba Guys, in 2020, we have like 4 or 5 signature drinks that most people know us for, whether it's dirty horchata, Korean banana milk, agua frescas or tea frescas, strawberry matcha. We have these drinks that are signature. But I'm sure in 2080, somebody will take a strawberry matcha and maybe add chocolate to it or do something, and they're going to call it their own.
Right.
And so all we're trying to do is culture is very fluid. It's a kogi tacos, right?
Right. Korean and Mexican food. Right. So tell me then, because you do have some unusual combinations. Does it just come to you, these creations, or like, how are you inspired in terms of creating these flavors?
That's a good question. You can tell I eat a lot.
Yeah. Well, how did you come up with the strawberry matcha then?
Oh, this was a funny story. One of my managers, Gordon, and his girlfriend at the time, Allie, knew I'm a big Kit Kat fan.
Okay.
And so they'd come back from Japan and they gave me 2 packs of Kit Kats, a green tea Kit Kat, my favorite, and then a strawberry Kit Kat.
Okay.
I broke both open. I broke off a piece and I put both into my mouth at the same time, just because I just wanted to try. And I was like, wow, how come nobody's ever done this before? And
because who puts 2 different flavored Kit Kats in their mouth at once? Seriously, Andrew.
I think, I don't. Maybe that in itself is probably something else. But now everyone's going to put like all their various versions of Kit Kats and Skittles in their mouth. Huh? But that's really how that happened. And then it tasted really great. And then the whole layering was a whole other thing where people didn't understand why we were kind of more expensive and we use better ingredients.
Yeah.
So the reason why we layered the drink was we were able to say when we handed off the drink, that's real strawberries, that's organic Strauss organic milk, that's organic matcha that we source.
Right.
So even the layering was kind of part of our storytelling. Again, we were not very planful. It just happened.
Right. It's just, well, some of the best things happen by accident. Okay. So in terms of the origination of boba, like you were saying, it could have come from these 2 different places in Taiwan. But now it's like, what used to be just an Asian thing has really taken off. I mean, I was surprised even when I came back from Asia to see that boba was becoming popular, not just within the Asian community, but Western culture as well. So when you guys first started Boba Guys, did you really think that this was going to take off? I mean, what was your mindset at that point?
I don't think we were thought that far ahead. This is 2011.
Yeah.
Really what we wanted to do was make a drink that represented who we were. We did know that there was stigma around Asian Americans, which we knew. So we wanted to say, can we make Asian food reputable?
Yeah.
Asian ethnic food. And people would be like, ew, boba is like a kid's drink, or it's not good for you. It's overly sweet.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, can we break the mindset of that? And my background is marketing and sociology. So to me, it was a sociology problem. Just like oat milk was popular in Europe, but why couldn't they take off in America? And we knew when we brought Oatly, really made it popular in America, we knew it was mainly because we didn't have a way of making it normal in a culture, which we now were able to do. And same with making what you would call boba popular. So I think generally our model and all of that is, it's all about figuring out maybe where we think people are going. And then, the real question that I haven't really talked much about ever is, do Asian people or non-Asians want expensive or premium boba? That was the main question. But for Asians, if we drive Lexus cars, Asian people know we like nice things if we can somehow justify the value.
Yeah.
Non-Asians, we know that there's an appetite to try new things, to try global cuisine, global ingredients, new things, if it's accessible. And I think to be very careful, some people think being accessible means selling out, but I don't think that's the case.
Honestly, Andrew, it's about exposure, right? With anything, right? That's why it is important to expose culture and tradition and, to the masses, maybe not on a global scale, but how else are people going to know about this if they don't receive the exposure in some way, rather than just, everyone's not going to go to Chinatown and everyone's not going to go to Koreatown, to explore. But if they're exposed to it closer to home, then there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's why Asian food has become popular, because it started expanding and becoming more exposed, right? So, I mean, Same thing with you guys, what you guys are doing.
I agree. I think so much of the best things came out of this taking the best of both worlds and making it their own.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the end result being that it at least is exposing the culture and the traditions of that culture to a bigger audience, and that is what it ultimately helps create a better narrative, right? Instead of a small group trying to control a narrative that they might not even be familiar with. And I mean, that takes us back to what we were talking about earlier about the better representation, the bigger voices that we need, in our community to be able to spread that word, to be able to control the narrative and tell factual, accurate stories.
Yeah. I mean, the one big thing that, I don't know, I'll ask you, we were talking about this earlier before this, we jumped on Zoom, was like how you guys started, this podcast even before like this all happened. I actually kind of thought everybody was starting podcasts. So maybe you guys were like, oh, let's talk too. And with your journalism background, you came in, but you guys actually already had a larger vision before even COVID came.
Yeah. This was not a podcast that came out of COVID, like a lot of podcasts are now, because everybody's just sitting at home and, trying to figure out what to do. No, Benny and I had met a couple of times, and I had this idea from a year ago, at least, taking all of my years of being a journalist and my Asian background and then my Western background and saying, there's no platform right now that represents the Asian voice in a bolder way, right? And really highlighting everything from the successes to the difficult issues and, everything in between. And so, Next Shark with Benny and I decided, okay, let's partner up and launch this podcast. And we started it back in early February, again, before anything, was blowing up like this with the crisis. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and it became a bigger platform because of this crisis, but it also has helped us get, information out and talk about these difficult issues that we're all facing. So I mean, timing is everything. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that, this crisis was a good thing, but I think it's really opened up all of our eyes to, the fact that there are these existing issues that maybe we were ignoring or thinking that were, that didn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, they do.
Sadly, yeah, they were probably latent. There was latent racism
Yes.
The whole time. And for better or worse, the Asian community of all the big minority groups didn't really feel it. That's why there was model minority myths and all that stuff. And I do think, I'm hopeful, what we were talking about earlier. Like I generally, I'm just a hopeful person. And I think I could see people banding together.
Yeah.
And I think, sadly, sometimes it takes a common enemy, but I
think it takes crisis. I think it takes, something that could possibly be life altering in many ways. Stop drinking that damn boba tea in front of me since I can't have it.
Yeah, because it's a natural. I actually like. People always think, "Oh, you fake like your drinks." I'm like, no,
he's totally drinking it as we're having this discussion. I know, and I'm like so jealous right now. But I think it is one of those things where sometimes it takes, a life altering experience, a crisis, drama, whatever, to wake people up. And I really hope that this is going to wake people up to the fact that we have some work to do. But if we work together and be courageous, then I think we could get a lot done. So, Andrew, I appreciate that you are also willing to speak up and, even go to Congress to talk about these issues. So we need more voices like you to keep on going and grow this movement. But also I want to wish you guys well in terms of the business. And I know this is a tough time. And I hope that things will work out, as we get through this crisis for you.
We will. I mean, we got an amazing team. We got a lot of support. I mean, with you guys, you doing this and Benny and your whole community, I think, again, it was a tough first 2 weeks, I would say, but the last 3-4 weeks have been, I kind of like got the emotional side out of it. And then now it's like problem solving. And, not to quote another pop culture thing, which I tend to do a lot, is that like, I really love, for me, I don't mind ending on this. Like, I love a quote. There's a great quote in Martian with Matt Damon. But it's also a great book. And it's really about crisis and problem solving. And I remember it's one of the last few lines of the movie. I don't want to ruin it, but everybody roughly knows what happens, is that he says, every day you keep solving problems, and you solve enough problems, you get to go home. And that's what kept me alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Andrew, it's not going to be for lack of trying, because I can tell that you are somebody who will not give up, until the last bit. So I definitely want to wish you well. Going to send good vibes, prayers to you and your team.
Thanks.
But keep up the good work. Keep up the optimism. I love that. I think it's very infectious. So keep that up. I know there are good days and bad days. We all have them, especially now. But we're going to all keep it together. We all have to be together in this. So thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Hopefully someday I'll be able to actually come see you face to face and enjoy some boba together in person. Yeah,
definitely. I promise I won't be this is my last sip, I promise.
Oh my God.
But I won't be drinking in front of you. Like,
no, I don't blame you. If I had that big pitcher of boba in front of me, I'd be like, it'd be gone by now. So, all right. Well, listen, take care, and we'll stay in touch for sure.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. That was great talking to Andrew, just about life and, life in COVID and what everyone is going through in their own different way. Like I said at the start of the show, we all have our different coping mechanisms in dealing with this crisis that none of us have ever gone through before. And so nobody has experience. So we're doing our best. Each one of us is doing our best. And that's what I want to just say is that, every day, is going to bring different emotions, different experiences. I'm sure every kind of emotion may be in one day. So just be easy on yourself. Sometimes I, kind of get down on myself going, God, May, why are you feeling this way? Just snap out of it. But sometimes it's okay just to sit with it. Let's hope that we can get through this sooner than later, but know that Safety has to be first and foremost. Facts matter. Data matters. Science matters. And we need to be smart about how we process all the information that's thrown at us. And most importantly, support each other. I think that is truly the most important thing. Rely on your family, your friends, and anyone else and anything that might help you. I always say that thank God for my 2 rescue dogs that I have here, or else I think I probably would have gone insane a while ago. Okay. Listen, I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you were inspired, maybe to make your own boba drink at home. But take care, stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong, and I will catch you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.